Hi, and welcome to this episode of Great Minds Print Alike, where I get the opportunity to speak to great minds in our business and our industry about all things print, marketing, and leadership. I'm joined today by my co-host, Jon Bailey.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
It's a Monday morning.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, it's very different for us. We've normally warmed up into
Always
the week.
firing Monday morning.
Yeah, well, I need another coffee, I think, but we'll see how we go after this. Jon, this is going to be a really interesting start to the week because I've got what I think is quite a serious subject, and I know you've got some strong opinions on this.
Okay.
I want to talk today about how businesses can protect margin by creating value. Yeah, so
at 10 o'clock.
It's a Monday morning conversation.
Wow.
Let's start as we mean to go on.
Okay.
I guess one of the things that lots of businesses talk about and lots of marketeers are very conscious about is that pressure that we have on margin. And when we talk about that, lots of people just jump straight into pricing. You know, margin has to be about pricing.
Of course.
But is price actually the problem?
I mean, it's a problem, right? But I think the challenge is understanding for me what margin actually is.
Okay.
So margin for me is about creating space.
Explain what you mean by that.
So it's pricing. So it's space in pricing. It's space compared to your cost versus your sale price.
Yep.
So you create space because that's what margin is. But it's also about creating space for me within the rest of the organization. So that's space to think, space to innovate, space to automate by design, space to do the proposition correctly. It's about creating margin all over the business and having the ability to think about where you create margin and add margin throughout the business.
Okay, so when you're talking about creating margin in our business, you're not just talking about the commercial team and how they support us in terms of our pricing strategy.
But that's really critical. Of course, you've got to get the margin right from a pricing perspective. But no, I'm talking about how you create space between what you offer versus what the market buys. Okay, and that comes across all different areas. That's service levels, that's delivery, that's production, that's pricing, that's proposition.
Okay, so I guess, are we using pricing then as an excuse for maybe deeper issues in businesses?
I don't know if we use it as an excuse because it's critical, right? You've got to get the pricing right. But it's the challenge in the print industry is like gold, right? The price of gold is only what people are going to pay for it that day. Yep. So your pricing proposition from a print perspective needs to be decide where you want to be, whether you want to be adding value at the top level or whether you want to be at the race to the bottom. And that depends on the type of business and also where you are in your product portfolio and also in the life cycle of your product portfolio, because that changes the pricing that you can achieve. But at the same time, you've still got to be able to be flexible with the market because the market will only pay what the market will pay, right? So you've got to work out how you add value to that market, I believe, so that you can always maintain the level within that pricing level you want to be.
So why do so many businesses end up competing on price when I don't think anybody wants to?
No, I don't think anybody wants to, but the problem is it's in a market that gets commoditized easy, and in our market, when new products come out, they get commoditized easy. Right? So I feel that the challenge is not necessarily about pricing, it's about where you position yourself in the market, because we have such a plethora of products and such a wide scope in what we do, right? Of product mix and product type for customers and customer type is huge. So I feel like it's more about making sure you're not stuck in the middle. And by that, I mean, if you follow the path of lots of other mediums, right? So everyone knows print's dead.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everyone's talked about print being dead for years, right? But the same happened with radio, the same happens with TV, the same happened with books, right? And if you think about that, so everything used to be dominated by schedules, by fixed assets, right?
Okay.
So radio, you had your radio stations, music, you had your albums and your CDs or your tapes, Same with TV. It was dominated by schedules of four channels, maybe 5 channels, then lots of channels.
Four, still only 4.
I was doing you a favour then. I was doing you a favour saying 5 was out. And so it was all dominated by schedule. And then what happened is everyone said those mediums are dead, but actually they didn't die. They evolved and they changed. And what happened is the ones that survive are out the middle. So you are every song in the world for $12.99 Spotify, or you're paying £300 plus for a concert ticket. Or in TV, you're paying every movie under the sun, every program you can possibly have with Netflix for $10.99 a month. Or you're paying 25 quid to go to Everyman in the cinema because it's an experience now and you can sit and have a drink, right? So what happens is the margin dies in the middle,
Okay.
but it follows either automated and efficient and effective or experiential. Right? And I feel the
Okay.
same as in our space is if you sit in the middle in any category, it's where the tough margin is.
So I guess what we're saying here is proposition can be that it is
Yeah.
the margin driver.
Yeah, it's one of the margin drivers.
Okay.
So the way I see the margin driving is proposition creates margin,
Yep.
production and technology protects margin,
Okay.
and culture and behavior amplifies margin. That's how I see it.
Okay, so there's 3 strands to either margin erosion if you get it wrong,
Correct.
or margin
Yeah.
build if you get
And
it
the way
right.
to look at it is 3 opportunities to create margin, and if you combine all 3, then you're really into the margin
Okay.
game.
So if then, and maybe I'm focusing on the negative now, if margin is getting eroded, is that a sales problem, a marketing problem, or is it actually a leadership problem?
It's all 3.
Okay.
So if you link all 3 to what I've just said there, right? So from a proposition perspective, where you put your business in the market is where you create the margin, is where the customers you attract, whether that's old customers, new customers, or the products you're trying to sell. Okay. If you're, for example, going after a new product, innovation gives you high margin because you're first to market.
Yeah.
So by definition, first to market allows you to charge more. So if you are looking from a proposition perspective at where the margin's going to be, and building your proposition there, you're naturally going to be playing in a high margin world.
Okay.
Interestingly, back to that piece about being in the middle, if you're last to market, you also benefit from margin because you've got margin efficiencies.
Of
Because
course.
the market is scaled, the market is older, the market is more developed.
Yeah.
So there's more volume.
Barriers to entry are
more
lower.
Barriers to entry more, you can do it quicker, and you've learned from everybody else. So actually you can benefit from scalable margin efficiencies. The ones that lose out are the ones in the middle who come second, third, or fourth to the market because the market's not developed, it's not scaled, it's still costly to get into, but actually the margin's already been had by the first to market, right?
Yep.
So that proposition piece is a marketing challenge.
Yep.
What you've got to do though is make sure that the culture and the behavior mean that the sales and the marketing teams are completely aligned in where your proposition's going, because the last thing you need, back to that, culture amplifies and the behavior amplifies. If your marketing team believe a proposition of innovation and margin is one place, and the sales team don't support that, back that, or then go to market with it, then you're not amplifying the margin you've created.
And also, I guess if your tech teams aren't aligned in terms of the efficiencies and the automation that's needed to deliver.
Okay, of course, but also it's also how you develop process and tech and things needs to be, it's a lot of hard work, right? So the businesses that survive and thrive and make more margin are the ones that put the hard work in, the hard yards in behind, right? We laugh about saying it's really, we work really hard to make it look this easy, right? I said that in the prelim. But that's the reality of it. You got to make it, you got to work really hard. But the challenge, if you work really hard, but you don't make it easier to use and easier to choose from the customer perspective, you're not removing friction, which means the customers, again, are going to erode your margin because it's difficult to use you.
Okay.
So your proposition will create your margin, put you in the right place and find the right margin. Right? You then move into your systems and your process, which need to make it frictionless for the customer to choose you in that proposition with all the hard work that goes behind it, because the hard work that goes behind it creates that culture and behavior of delivery.
Okay.
Right?
So talk to me a little bit more about almost the steps and stages on this. Should marketing be taking the lead on this first before sales even get involved?
I think it depends, right? So from a strategic perspective, no, I think marketing and sales need to work together. And this is what you said about whose job is it? Marketing, sales, leadership. I think all 3. The leadership and the direction of the business needs to be aligned with what we're trying to achieve with the marketing and the sales team. Marketing then needs to be clear on what proposition and what market we're going after, and sales needs to be clear what's happening there so that they can deliver. Right?
Yep.
However, I do believe that it's a military term, which at the moment, is sensitive conversation about military, but it's a fact that it's a force multiplier.
Yep.
Okay, so you don't send your ground troops in to a battle zone until you've weakened the defenses.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So you send your missiles, your bombs, unfortunately these days drones, into you weaken the defenses so that by the time your ground troops go in, they're expected and people know what's coming, right?
So that's that piece. To go back to a previous episode that we did on Great Minds Print Alike about the need for the brand side of things, people knowing who you are, what you stand for, all that before or aligned with your campaign activity.
You need that as well. But if we're talking specifically about proposition, right? The brand piece is talking about what we stand for, what we believe in, our higher purpose, which is what our new customers and the next generation require, by the way. They're choosing companies based on bigger, better, higher purpose, rather than, take me out for a corporate lunch. That world's gone. Thankfully, it's now different. It's now about what we actually believe in. But from a tactical perspective as well, we still need to create this force multiplying effect so that the proposition and who we're going out with that proposition is really clear before the sales team can go in and get that transaction, because it will amplify, again, back to that amplification of culture, having that culture of innovation and delivery and adding value, not just selling product, is where margin's created as well.
Okay, this is really interesting. I guess the interesting bit for me here is if a customer then can't understand why we're different, the conversation's always going to come down to price, isn't it?
It's called better sameness, right? Better sameness.
I like that.
So I always remember, I won't mention any names, but I always remember when a customer allowed me to sit in on sales pitches from other print companies.
Wow, okay.
And I listened and just sat quietly and pretended I didn't know what I was talking about, just to hear what they have. And it was unbelievable. It's always better sameness. We have better people than anyone else. We have better processes than anyone else. We have cheaper, better prices than anyone else. But we're not the cheapest, but actually we add value more than anyone else. We have better quality assurances than anyone else. And everyone said exactly the same. It's all better sameness. So if you're focusing on the product, saying you're better than anyone else, then you're the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
So actually what you need to focus on is the outcome.
Okay.
The value of the product.
And what it does for the person who's purchasing.
What it does for the business, what it does for the person, what it does for their clients, and link it to ROI and link it to actual value. Because the minute it's linked to an outcome, then it no longer becomes a product that you can quantify based on price.
So again, it's moving away from the selling a product, the transactional relationship, to that collaborative relationship.
And that's hard to do when you're in a product, when you're in a commoditized type industry where people think they all understand the value. Oh, that's expensive. Well, is it? You don't know if it's expensive. Well, I thought it was going to be cheaper. Okay, but because everyone can quantify it.
Yeah.
So when you're talking labor, paper, press time, ink, finishing time, delivery time, everybody's an expert in quantifying that price, aren't they? But when you're talking return on marketing investment, return on advertising spend, conversion rates, return rates, and all that kind of stuff, then it's very hard for people to actually put value on it as a piece of paper, but actually what it's going to do for your business. Yeah.
So you're talking about value there in the perspective of what it does for their business, adding value to their business, which ultimately gives value to what we do.
Yeah.
But how much of value is about making things easier, not cheaper?
Margin hides everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're talking about a increased margin, or you create margin is not about charging people more money. Margin is about providing the right service to the right people at the right time, easy to use, easy to choose. So friction creates is a margin killer. Right? Noise is a margin killer. Complicated processes that work for internal but not for the customer are margin killers. Right, they're all things associated. They might not directly impact or say that's taken this much off the price or this much off the price, but the longer things are in the factory, the longer things take to go through, the number of meetings you have about the same topic, the number of emails you have about the same topic, the lack of clarity to customers or internally are all margin killers.
Okay. So if this is something that is important, and I think it is important to all businesses, not just in the print industry, I think particularly as, it's so much easier to compare prices these days.
But just to jump in, this is why I believe it's so important for our business, for other print businesses, for all business and for our customers' businesses. It is a tough marketplace out there for most businesses. So price is a factor.
Of course.
Is an issue for everybody. So whether you like it or not, and we can sit here and say it's not about price, it's about, at the end of the day, It comes down to the amount of money people are willing to pay for a product, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be tight. Let's not pretend that suddenly people are going to go, oh yeah, well you can charge us whatever
Whatever
you
you
want
like.
because it's great. We love using you. Not going to happen. But where the responsibility comes is we need to charge the right amount for the value we're delivering and get our clients and our customers and their customers to see the value add in what we sell to the right proposition for the right product, right?
Okay.
Then our responsibility is to remove all of those margin killers from within our organization so that we can continue to offer our clients the best product for the best price in an effortless way, whilst we can then increase our margin and be more sustainable for our people, afford to pay more, know we're going to be around longer, be able to innovate, be able to grow. I did a post on LinkedIn recently, you saw it, with regards to the margin back, what goes into the cost of a piece of paper or I think I did a book or a flyer. The amount that's left at the end for innovation, training, accreditations, sustainability, ESG is so small. We have a responsibility to make that bigger, not necessarily to put prices up.
Okay. I'm going to ask some quick fire questions here.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready for these?
I'm ready.
Okay. Customers only care about price.
False.
True or false?
False.
You didn't let me ask true or
I
false.
knew where you were going. False.
In tough markets, you have to discount to survive.
No, incorrect. It's actually, I would suggest the better way to survive is the other way around.
Expand on that.
I would suggest that you need to stop, think, how do I innovate? Where is the margin? How do I find that margin? How do I follow that margin and revamp your proposition to stand out from the crowd to find that margin?
Okay. What's a widely held belief about pricing or margin that you strongly disagree with?
That it's entirely the responsibility of the commercial team.
Have you ever walked away from a deal purely on price?
Yes, many.
And what's the biggest margin killer in most businesses?
Complacency.
I like that. I like that. So if you want to leave our listeners with, a couple of, killer lines or killer statements, what would it be? What would you suggest people look at first?
I just think the key is to understand that margin isn't just on price. The responsibility is for the whole ecosystem to benefit and get margin throughout, because that's what makes us sustainable. It means if everyone wins, then everyone wins, right? It doesn't work if a client wins on price, but the production doesn't win on price. It doesn't work.
Yep.
So it's about that. And I do think it's back to that piece I said at the start, which is, I think your proposition and marketing itself creates margin.
Yep.
So where do you want to play? Where do you want to, which playing field do you want to be playing, and which margin you're going to go and get? Your systems, your tech, your AI, your production, your processes. That's finance process, production process, accountancy, all your internal stuff. They protect your margin. So really easy to choose, easy to use, a lot of hard work behind it, but make it frictionless and noiseless for customers. They protect your margin. But the culture and the behavior, your customer service, your attitude, your added value, your response, your speed, your care, your attention, your energy, your love and your passion for all of that, and your understanding of where margin is created and your commitment to creating margin for everybody is what amplifies it.
I like that summary. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Jon, thanks for talking to us today about that. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Jon, or in fact any of our guests on Great Minds Print Alike, please put them in the comments below. Look forward to speaking to you next time.
Thanks, H.